Hello, Drake Alex, Musically Optimistic here, and today I'm going to be counting down my top 15 worst albums of 2023. Now, I'm still getting my setup figured out because the desk that I have, I can't have my mic angled so you can see the back wall there, so there's fucking nothing back here. I have like my piano and my bass and my guitar and like just a couple instruments, but I think they're not even in frame. Anyway, 2023 was a pretty boring year for music. Not that nothing good dropped, it's just that when it did drop, it was near the end of the year, so by the time that happened, I was pretty much already checked out of the year. Now, I did listen to some fantastic albums, but I also listened to a few stinkers, some of which were completely fucking unlistenable, and some of which were just a little disappointing. Like, I didn't even hear that many outright bad albums this year. In fact, it's mainly because I didn't even hear that many albums this year. Compared to last year, I listened to like 20 or 30 less. There was just a whole lot less this year that I was interested in listening to or checking out in general. So that has made my lists a little bit harder to make, but the bottom of this list is pretty fucking bad. Even if the start of it is just things that I'm not crazy about but don't like outright hate. And that brings us to our entry spot, number 15, Andre 3000 with New Blue Sun. This is Andre's first solo album since Outkast ended back in like the 2000s, and a lot of people were expecting him to come out with like a rap album to show the game that he's back, but no. He decided to come back with an ambient flute album, and it's just kind of boring. Not that ambient music is boring or anything, because that's a very dismissive claim. Tim Hecker has that Virgins album that I love. 10 Tricks Point Never with Replica, amazing record. It's just that the instrumental compositions and the passages on this thing are so drawn out and boring. Like, I get the point of it, is Andre experimenting with this new thing that he loves doing, which is playing the flute. It just doesn't sound all that interesting. Number 14, Logic with College Park. Now, Logic is a rapper that I've never been the most fond of. I've always thought his albums were like okay, but like this album is literally just a one-to-one copy of Good Kid, Mad City, but not good. Like, yeah, there are certain songs here and there that are interesting, like Lightsabers, but because of the shitty acting and writing of the skits before and after every track, even the tracks that I like on here aren't even worth coming back to, because if I save them to my playlists, I have to listen to the skits on every single track. And because the story of this is just Good Kid, Mad City, why would I listen to this album when I could just listen to Good Kid, Mad City? Logic has been accused of copying Kendrick in the past, but like this album is like more blatant than ever before, except for like Under Pressure, an album which I still haven't listened to. Next up at number 13, Gunna with A Gift and a Curse. This was actually not as bad as I was expecting, given Gunna's DS Forever last year. That album was borderline fucking unlistenable. The instrumentals were horrid. The flows weren't there, the writing wasn't there, but this one was not bad. There were some interesting flows, because through his snitching controversy and stuff where he ratted out members of YSL allegedly to get out of his court case, he came back and he had, it seemed like he was rapping for his life, having the most coherent flows I've heard him have, having the most interesting writing. It's just the recordings with some of the fucking smoke alarm beeps and the overall lack of interesting songwriting is where it lacks. Because Gunna as a core artist doesn't have a lot to work off of. His sound and formula is very basic, bare bones, and this record just kind of accentuates that, because even at his best moments on here, it's still like an okay Lil Baby song or like a decent 2019 Roddy Ricch track. Like, even his best material isn't stuff that I would choose to check out in my free time. At number 12, Young Nudy with Gumbo. Now, I'd heard like a few Young Nudy features on Dreamville songs and a couple Young Nudy songs. So going into this, I was expecting something different than what I got, because for some reason Young Nudy gets featured on more lyrical tracks a lot, and I don't get it. It's not even like all of them are lyrical. Like his feature on Dial It was fantastic, and I loved it, and his contribution to it was amazing. But it's just like none of the playful energy that he has on those tracks is carried over to his own record, because the instrumentals are bland, the rapping is bland, the lyricism is just so stupid at times, and his voice is just so fucking grating. And also on TikTok, his Eggplants and Peaches song or whatever was trending for a while, and I had to constantly hear that over and over, and God, the chorus of it is so fucking unlistenable. Like, why was this a trending sound? Hi, I completely forgot to mention number 11, Cracker Island by Gorillaz. It's boring and bland, and I forgot that it existed. That's literally all I have to say about it. Sorry, she heard me talking about these bad albums, and she wants to be a part of it. Number 10, probably a contentious pick, but Young Fathers with Heavy Heavy. Now, I had no clue who Young Fathers was before this year. I only heard about him because of his Fantano. I only heard about them because of his Fantano review, and on Album of the Year, they were getting a lot of traction when this album came out. So I decided, why don't I give it a listen? And it turned out to be one of the most boring, lifeless soundscapes that I heard. Sure, the tracks were pretty, but like, it's just a bunch of like pretty groovy wallpapers for the entire album. Like, I heard the intro track and I was like, wow, this is so dense, so lush, so absolutely gorgeous. Surely this will go somewhere. And then the next track, wow, this is so dense and lush and gorgeous, and surely this will go somewhere. But every track, it was just that exact same experience of just waiting for something to happen, and it just never happens. It's just a pretty dull, lifeless experience, in my opinion, that I don't really want to come back to. Again, we're not to the albums that I actually hate yet. That's still like a 5 out of 10 record. It's fine, just kind of bland and boring. And now getting into the albums that I dislike, number 9, Macklemore with Ben. Macklemore's debut record, The Heist, had, some hits on it. The Macklemore's follow-up record had a couple hits on it, like Downtown. That pretty cool. And then Gemini happened, and it seemed like all of his charisma went out the window. Because at this point, he was such a successful, rich-ass artist that he started giving into the things that he was a breath of fresh air from for a lot of people. The braggadocio, the whatever else people disliked about hip-hop, I liked about Macklemore. I always found him kind of intriguing and interesting as an artist because he is a generally uplifting and positive guy. But on Gemini and this record too, he is a bit less charismatic and less forward-thinking in his lyricism, his politics, his everything. Because instead of this record being full of uplifting music, it's just a bunch of 80s pastiches and boring generic pop songs with no message. It's just a really boring, bland album, and it's just another step down from the mediocrity that Macklemore had been running on for years now. At number 8, Sefu with Free Archetype. In 2022, Sefu nearly topped my Album of the Year list because his record, The Sword Drew Blood, is so good. If you haven't checked it out, which you probably haven't, please check it out. It is absolutely amazing. But everything he's dropped since that record has just been dipping in quality, whether it's his Before We Knew or Had a Cry. And then lately with this record, it's just almost substanceless. Like, I get that one of the key things in abstract hip-hop can be its short track lengths and the abstractness of it. But the thing about this record is that it's not abstract, it's just underwritten, and a lot of the tracks have either pointless intros or outros, and he even tries doing like a few trap beat instrumentals on here, which doesn't complement his style that well. There is one fantastic track on here, which I don't remember the name of, but I have it saved. But God, a lot of this record was just so disappointing, and I really hope he gets on the better track soon. Number 7, Don Toliver with Lovesick. It's just a boring, bland Travis Scott record. What can I say? Like, Don Toliver draws that comparison because he not only is he signed to Cactus Jack, I'm pretty sure. He just is so derivative in his vocal style, and it's not even interesting in any way. It's just a whole lot of bland auto-tune pop trap on here, and there's nothing to say because it's just in one ear and out the other. Number 6, Lil Pump with Lil Pump 2. Most people hate this album much more than I do. Like, it's still not great. It's like a 3 out of 10 for me. But it's just the same shit as always, just the instrumentals are less hard-hitting, the lyricism is not as funny, and just the overall energy is just not there on this record. The only track that I found interesting was the one with Rio to Young OG, not only because it's a great shining moment for Rio for people who don't know who he is, which I knew who he was. But it's also just generally a track that Lil Pump is actually trying to have charisma and some witty bars to say on it. And also a lot of people hated pump rock x heavy metal, which, because the first half is awful, but when the second half comes around, it's probably one of the more memorable moments on the record, as a lot of the rest of it is just so bland and forgettable that it's like, it's one of the only things that people remember, which is why it's the most memed song from it, because it's the only thing on here that's worth talking about. Here we are, bottom 5 of the year, and the next 2 are going to be albums that you probably haven't even heard of, but I had to listen to, so you have to get told about them. Number 5 is Overpade with WuZZard. I mean, he literally used the Brazzers font for his album cover, so I don't think he's looking to be taken all that seriously to begin with. But yeah, it's just another bland, boring, vocal choppy, auto-tune bullshit record from Overpade, who I didn't even like before. This one is worse than his previous, not because it's more annoying. In fact, it's the opposite. It's more listenable. It's so fucking boring that just thinking about it is putting me to sleep right now, because I have to talk about this boring ass record. And doing subsequent listens to refresh my memory for this video, I had to start skipping and fast forwarding through songs just to get to where shit is happening, which is almost nowhere on the record, because almost nothing happens on this thing. It's so bland, forgettable, boring, puts me right to fucking sleep. At number 4, an album that I disliked at drop. The artist disliked that I disliked it, which is fair. And their friends and stuff recommended that I go back to it, and I still have. I still haven't gotten nothing from it. That is WuLxrdShakim and Ghoste with Ghostly Hours. Their name at like the start of the year was Azza, but they changed it to WuLxrdShakim. And I just don't get anything from it. This is just such a nothing of a record. The lyricism is so, I don't even want to say meaningless, because there are certain lines here with meaning. It's just that they are scrambled in with lines about like coming on her tummy and like having political bars next to odd sex bars. Yeah, sure, it's a weird juxtaposition, and maybe that's what you're going for, but the issue is that it's a weird juxtaposition and it doesn't fucking work. And the production on here is just so lifeless and stiff. I'd say stay away from this album, but if there is one record that you should check out from them, it'd probably be Os Wanderers, their record under the Prometheus name with producer Maltus the Maker. I don't love that record either, but I will admit it is a step up, and at least I would have more to say about it. At number 3, YoungBoy Never Broke Again with I Rest My Case. This is literally just like a shitty Playboi Carti album, but it's YoungBoy. Like, YoungBoy has never been an artist I've been a fan of to begin with. I thought his sound was too gimmicky. The fact that he puts out like 20 albums a year is so fucking ridiculous. Do you want to be part of this video? No? Okay. And on top of the songwriting and vocals and everything on this record being borderline unlistenable, the fucking skits that YoungBoy has on here at some points are Joyner Lucas levels awful. Like, the writing is terrible, the acting is terrible, the everything about them is so comically bad. And it's not like it's trying to be comical, it's trying to be dead serious in its presentation, and that's what makes it so fucking awful. Like, I would say listen, but if you've listened to one YoungBoy album, I'm sure they're all like this. It's not very good. Number 2 on this list is NF with Hope. Now, NF has never, like, pissed me off with his music before. I've always found it, like, kind of bland and boring and just lyrical, spiritual, Christian bullshit, but, like, this record is like the worst I've heard from him by far. Like, Jesus Christ. The production on here, not only is it unlistenable and AJR levels of fucking grating, which, by the way, yeah, AJR is not on this list. Are you surprised? Not only is the production unlistenable, but the lyricism is so pretentious, preachy, and just in your face and so mean-spirited. Like, one of the main things that made NF bearable before was his likability, his charisma, his positive outlook on things. But that's just gone on this record, and it's replaced with some deep bullshit. There's just nothing to talk about with this album. It's so fucking bad and stupid and horrible and unlistenable. And let's go to some dishonorable mentions. These are albums that I didn't get to listen to, but would likely be on the list had I listened to them. First off, The AJR album, The Maybe Man, it's the snippets that I've heard, it sounds like the same fucking AJR shit, and I'm gonna have to listen to it soon because I'm working on an AJR video. Kim Dracula, A Gradual Decline in Morale. I heard the second track on this thing, which is like the main intro or whatever, and it's so fucking bad. Like, oh my god, it is one of the most overstimulatory, lyrical, spiritual, just chauvinistic things that I've heard, like, maybe ever. Like, it's trying to throw these billion ideas at you and show you what he can do. And the lyricism is so fucking edgy and dark and so substanceless and vain, and just listen to the second track on this album, and I'm telling you, you will get exactly what I'm saying. And then I could just lump in Ken Carson, A Great Chaos, and Destroy Lonely If Looks Could Kill, just in one spot here, because they're both, like, they're about the same. And at number one, if you have been following this channel, you know it's one of the only albums that I reviewed this year from a big artist, Trippie Redd, Mansion Music. Trippie decided to continue his rage formula that he got on Trip at Night, a record that I'm already not fond of, which I know a lot of people dislike that opinion. And even if you like that record, I don't know what you get out of this one. Like, there's almost nothing good about it. The rage formula gets so drawn out after a few tracks, and this thing is like 20 something tracks long. The songs are so long, the instrumentals are so formulaic that they all sound the same. Trippie's vocals are bland and outright bad at times. His songwriting has never been very good, but like on this record, it feels like it reaches a new low. The features on this are so bad, like Ski Mask and Kodak Black and Travis Scott. Also, his fucking verse, his vocals overpower the instrumental so much. Like, when he comes in, the instrumental is almost inaudible because of how fucking loud his vocals are. How did nobody catch that in the mix? It's such a mess, long, drawn out piece of shit that, like, I don't see how it was made. Like, it's genuinely one of the worst albums I have heard in my life. Like, it is a dead stop 0 out of 10. There's not a redeeming quality on here. And I know some of you are probably thinking, oh, what about Nightcrawler with Juice WRLD? We don't need another fucking Juice WRLD feature. He died in 2019. Can people stop? Like, the same with X. I heard a rumor that his mother and his label are planning on doing an AI-generated posthumous album for him. He died in 2018. Fucking let him die. We don't need posthumous feature after posthumous feature after posthumous feature. Just let these artists go, okay? Just let it go. It's really weird to be holding these artists as essentially puppets to get someone to come listen to your shitty album and your shitty song. Because you have nothing redeeming to provide yourself, so you just bring a beloved artist that people miss. It's really fucked up, and I really wish people would stop doing it. Anyway, I have pretty much bored myself to tears with this video, because talking about these albums that grate my brain and drain all the life from me has drained all the life from me. So yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.